Hello, in this condensed video, I will show you the most important information about replacing the valve cover gasket in the BMW E60 and E61. I will show you the easiest way to access it, which components need to be removed along the way, and how to do it, what problems may appear during the process, and what to do if they occur. I will also reveal the secret of a durable and leak-free connection, so that you will never have to return to this repair again. Now, without unnecessary talking, I am getting to work. Okay, let's start right from the beginning. I'll show you which tools to use and the part numbers for the components I'll be replacing. I'm starting with removing the plastic covers for the cabin filters. First, unclip the metal latch located right here and then turn the single screw that I've just highlighted on the screen. For this, you'll need a size 13 socket. The bolts are quite delicate, so you have to be careful not to break them. Remove the cover on the other side in exactly the same way. Then take off the seal that protects the interior from water. It's not screwed in, you just need to slide it off. Next, unscrew the bolts holding the lower cabin filter housing located right here. For this, you'll need a standard Phillips bit, a PZ2. Next, disconnect the plastic piece that connects both sides. You need to pull it toward yourself while standing on the right side of the car. Right after that, remove the plastic drain channels that seal the edges on both sides. This will give you space to take out the lower part of the cabin filter covers, which I'm removing on the screen now after unscrewing 2 additional plastic bolts with a 13mm socket, just like in the earlier step. Finally, remove the last 2 plastic covers on the right and left sides. After that, you can take off the engine support bar, which is held by 4 Torx T30 bolts. All of them are easy to reach and they come out very smoothly. Now I remove the 7 screws of the acoustic cover. All of them are located in the marked spots, and to get them out, you'll need a size 5 Allen bit. On some engine versions, these screws may be Torx 25 or 30 depending on the model. Once all the screws are out, I unscrew the oil filler cap and take off the cover. After putting all the parts aside in a safe place, I screw the oil filler cap back on and move on to the side air filter panel, wondering what kind of surprise I'll find inside. I remove the 3 screws marked on the screen, using the same Torx or Allen bit I used just a moment ago. Now comes an interesting moment, because based on this, you can see if someone really took care of the car. In this case, it's clear that maintenance was not a priority. The filter looks absolutely terrible. You can even see leaves from last autumn. A real mess. It's definitely time for a replacement, so I go ahead and remove the next part of the air intake to give myself a bit more space to work. This element is held by a single screw, located right here. Once again, depending on the car version, you'll need either an Allen bit or a Torx, just like before. After removing it, the whole piece comes out without any trouble. Next, we'll take out the remaining part of the air filter housing so that we can remove the filter itself and gain access to the valve cover gasket hidden underneath it. For this, you'll need to remove 5 screws around the housing. For the ones at the back, you may need a slim bit extension because the space is quite tight. Once all the screws are out, I take the part off, exposing the air filter in full view. This is what it looks like. Now just imagine how much of an impact this has on the engine's performance. I quickly pull out the old filter. The new one is already waiting in its box. We'll install it a bit later. In the meantime, I take the chance to vacuum the entire housing because this way, no leftover dirt will fall deeper into the engine. Keeping everything clean is a very important step. Now we'll unscrew the duct on the side of the mass airflow sensor, which connects to the cold side of the turbocharger. It's held by 2 screws, the same type as before. One of them, the one further in the back, can be a bit tricky to reach. Honestly, I had some trouble getting to it myself. The lower part is not bolted on, so you can remove the whole thing just like that. Now comes the second part of the disassembly. To remove the valve cover gasket, we also have to remove the intake manifold. So first, I loosen all the intake runner studs that connect to the engine block, but I don't remove them yet. This prevents unwanted stress on the rest of the assembly. Then I do the same with the bolts hidden deeper inside. I loosen each one first, and only when the manifold separates evenly from the block will I remove all the bolts completely. Next, I disconnect the throttle body electrical connector. To do this easily, you need to press both sides inward. Then it will slide out with almost no resistance. I continue with the EGR cooler hose area where there is a clamp band that I loosen. This allows us to remove the intake manifold together with the throttle body and the EGR valve without taking each part apart separately. Next, I disconnect the pressure sensor plug on the manifold. Right below it, there is another electrical connector hidden a bit deeper. I unplug that one as well. I also remove the bolt that holds the dipstick tube in place. On the right side, there is a vacuum hose that controls the swirl flaps in this model. I disconnect it by sliding the end off the fitting. Finally, I remove the clip from the main air duct and pull the duct off firmly in this direction so the whole assembly can be released. At this stage, the entire unit can be taken out of the car in one piece without any problem. At this stage, we're about halfway through the disassembly. Now I remove all the injector plugs along the entire rail. There are 6 of them in total, each with its own latch that's easy to access. In addition, the plastic panel is secured with 3 bolts, which you can undo using a size 5 socket. Make sure you remember the exact order of the plugs, because the sequence is very important and must not be mixed up. Once the bolts are removed and set aside safely, the entire panel can be shifted to the side so it doesn't get in the way. At this point, I'm loosening the first 3 fuel lines marked on the screen using an open-end wrench size 13. Once they're removed, set them aside carefully and keep them in the exact same order they were installed. This is the best approach for reassembly since these lines don't use any additional seals and are already perfectly matched to the spots where they were originally mounted. Swapping them around is a bad idea and could lead to fuel leaks, and that's something we definitely want to avoid. We're going to work on the injectors now, so I vacuumed the whole area to remove all the debris that has built up here over the years. This way, nothing falls into the engine because that could damage the valves, and we don't want that. After vacuuming the top side, I loosen the injector nuts, 12 in total. This is where the long sockets I mentioned earlier really help. They're simply more comfortable. Here we need 8 or 10 mm, depending on the car version. Many people are afraid of this stage, but it's not hard. I'll tell you step by step what to do and what not to do, so listen closely and everything will be fine. Now I insert a flathead screwdriver between the injector and the housing and gently pry it to check how tightly the injector is seated. In this case, they don't move at all. I don't know when they were last removed. That's why I use an old reliable trick, WD-40. I spray a little on each injector and wait a short moment to let it work. Note that I do not disconnect the connections between the injectors unless it is necessary. I would do this only if the entire injector needed to be replaced. This is because, after changing the order of the injectors, they must be coated again. We will only be sealing the entire system, so we can do it without disconnecting them, which ensures that the order will not change and recoating will not be necessary. They work fine, so there's no need for that. All I'll do is clean them, and everything will be great. I make a second check with the screwdriver to assess how difficult the task will be, and I can already tell it won't be too bad. I grab the injector connector with my fingers and move it slightly left and right to loosen it up. At some point, they start to rotate in the slot and become free. In the most difficult cases, you may need special pullers designed specifically for removing injectors, and this is a solution that will always work, but always try to be as gentle as possible. New original BMW injectors cost around $400 each, so it's easier to spend 20 extra minutes on this task instead of paying that much money. Once they're loose, I take them out and place them on a clean cloth or a piece of cardboard I prepared earlier. This way, we've prepared the space for replacing the valve cover gasket. The last plastic piece we'll remove is the cover itself. I'm now loosening the 18 bolts securing it to the engine. I misplaced the photo from when it was still in place, so I'll show you the bolt locations on the removed part. You'll need a size 10 socket. From underneath, the bolts are held by rubber grommets. You don't need to pull them out forcefully. In addition, you'll also need to remove the 12 injector studs using a size 4 socket. There's quite a bit of unbolting here, but that's because everything needs to stay perfectly sealed, and it's one of the reasons these engines can last so long. On the side, there's one more bolt securing the wiring to the housing. It's a bit tricky to reach, so take your time. Don't break the plastic. It's important because it prevents the element from touching the hot exhaust manifold. To remove it, use a size 5 socket. After this step, you can lift off the entire valve cover, revealing the beautiful inside of the engine. Looks great, doesn't it? Okay, great. We have finished removing the components. Now we will move on to the most important part. I start by cleaning the entire surface. You can see how dirty it is after so many years of use. We want everything to be perfectly sealed, so with a cotton cloth and some cleaning solution, I wipe down every edge. After this step, the gasket surface looks nice, clean and dry. The valve cover itself is also quite dirty and covered with buildup on all sides, so I spend some time cleaning it as well. I scrub the air channels to remove carbon deposits, and I also wipe down the spot where the air filter will sit later. Then I remove the old gasket, which is already worn out and wouldn't seal properly if reused. I dry the area where it was seated. If necessary, I use special tools for the tight spots, such as cotton swabs, which are perfect for this kind of job. Any remaining debris I blow away with compressed air. This way, I end up with a clean, ready-to-use part where I can now install the new gasket. Before I do that, in order to seal it properly and maintain its flexibility for a longer time, I coat the entire surface of the rubber with a small amount of fresh engine oil. This gasket is very important, so for the sake of quality, I didn't buy a replacement part but an original one, which cost about $25. The earlier metal gaskets were not lubricated because of the high temperatures they are exposed to, but in this case, applying oil is absolutely recommended. Next, I set it in place between the plastic guides and insert all the bolts into their spots. Finally, I apply a thin coat of oil once more on the surface that will connect with the engine, then set the whole piece aside and return to work under the hood. Before putting the cover back on, I take advantage of the easy access to the openings in the engine block and vacuum their interiors with a narrow nozzle, just in case something might have slipped in during the earlier stages of our work. It's better not to take risks and eliminate any potentially dangerous situations before they happen. Then I place the cover, making sure to set it down symmetrically so the gasket doesn't fold. I tighten the bolts first gently and evenly from all sides and then with a torque wrench. For the fasteners near the injector studs, I use 7 Newton meters, and for the remaining bolts around the edge of the housing, I do not exceed 10 Newton meters. Once everything is secured as it should be, I plug all the openings with a piece of paper towel to avoid anything falling in. Next, I tighten that one tricky size 5 screw that holds the wires on the side of the valve cover, making sure they don't touch any hot engine components. Moving to the other side of the car, I take out liqui moly injector cleaner, which I usually add to the fuel tank from time to time during refueling. This time, I soak a cotton cloth with it and carefully clean the injectors from the outside, removing all baked-on dirt and deposits. While this step doesn't affect the fuel mixture delivery, it has a big impact on the sealing of each injector once they are placed back into their seats. In addition, I will later pour a fresh can of the cleaner into the tank and let this strong solvent work inside the engine while driving with a warm engine. While cleaning, I also remove the old rubber seals from the injector shafts, which we will replace shortly with new ones. I also take off the copper washers located at the tips of the injectors. While replacing the rubber seals is not strictly necessary, believe me, it's worth doing, especially since they only cost a few dollars. However, replacing the copper washers is absolutely essential, as the old ones will never sit properly in the seat again. I install the new rubber seals on the injectors. These are original parts that cost me a total of $7 for the complete set, which makes them a very good investment and definitely not something worth saving on. As for the copper washers, in this case good quality replacements costing $6 in total, I place them into the channel using a screwdriver to carefully position them in the correct place. I place the previously cleaned injectors next to their slots and carefully install the injector holders in the correct orientation. They should be facing upward, just like in the picture. Then I gently slide all the injectors into place, making sure they seat properly into the copper sealing washers we installed earlier. The only thing you really need to watch out for is not hitting the injector tip against the edge of the slot. We definitely don't want any damage or bending, since these are delicate and expensive components. After this step, the whole assembly is already looking neat. We're getting very close to finishing the reassembly. I start by hand threading all the injector stud nuts. 12 pieces, size 8 or 10 depending on your engine version. Then I tighten them symmetrically with a torque wrench at 7 nanometers. If you're holding a mouse right now, you can show your appreciation for my work by leaving a like under this video, and I'll be very grateful for it. Finally, I check if everything is firmly in place. In this case, everything looks good. If any injector feels loose, it most likely means you installed the injector holder the wrong way around and it didn't press the injector down properly. Next, I reinstall the fuel lines in their exact original positions. In the previous video, I mentioned setting them aside in the correct order, and now we're putting them back the same way. This step is very important as it greatly reduces the risk of fuel leaks, especially since we're reusing these lines without adding new seals. I tighten all the nuts with a 17 mm open-end wrench to 30 nanometers, without using any grease, paste, or engine oil. Everything should be dry. Next, I reconnect all the injector electrical plugs, making sure they are attached in the correct order. If you didn't disassemble the rail itself, everything will automatically line up properly. After that, I secure the 3 screws to the housing, located here. You'll need a size 5 socket, and according to service data, they should be tightened to 6 nanometers. After that, I reconnect the plugs for the mass airflow sensor and the camshaft position sensor, making sure the clips snap securely into place. Before I tighten the intake manifold back in place, I thoroughly clean the engine block at the gasket contact surface, and only then do I set the manifold onto its position. While everything is still loose, I first reconnect all the plugs and hoses at the back, because this gives me a bit more room for my hands. Then I reconnect all the components at the front, such as the electrical connectors, the EGR cooler hose, the throttle channel, and the oil dipstick bracket. At the end, I tighten the entire intake manifold evenly using a torque wrench, making sure not to exceed the maximum tightening torque, because these are delicate components and you must not overdo the amount of force. Next, I clean the area where the air filter will sit, making sure the housing is in good condition and won't contaminate the new white filter. I chose a high-quality replacement filter at a low price, just $20, and trusted it because it had hundreds of positive reviews from other owners of this engine. In my opinion, in cases like this, there's no need to overspend, since it's an easily accessible, replaceable part. This part can only be positioned correctly after removing the oil cap. Once you've aligned it properly, reinstall the cap to avoid any unwanted surprises inside, and then tighten them with a size 5 Allen bit to 8 Newton meters. On some engine versions, these screws may be Torx 25 or 30 depending on the model. In any case, I never exceed 8 Nm of torque here, since the housing is quite delicate and it's better to avoid cracking it. Next, I install the air duct by placing its end directly onto the mass airflow sensor flange, and I tighten both screws with a T25 Torx bit, first gently and then with a torque wrench set to no more than 5 Newton meters. I now cover the air filter to make sure it won't get dirty during the remaining work, then put the housing in place, secure it, and install the last air duct. Once it is correctly positioned, I fasten it with a single screw, again using the same Torx bit and tightening it to no more than 5 Newton meters. After this stage, assembling all the remaining components is just a formality, and you will handle it without any problem, so I will not record it. Thank you for watching together with me. I hope it went well for us. Leave a like. Take care.